it connects to people on an emotional level. And our emotions are where we make decisions to take action and buy. Hey, my feel good friends. I hope that you're having a wonderful week. As always, I'm actually having a really great week myself. At the time of this recording, we have just launched our online course, The Social Map, for the third time. And I am so excited about it because when I created this program in the beginning of the year, I really wanted to help down-to-earth entrepreneurs like yourself use social media in the best way for them, in the most efficient and strategic way, so that you weren't wasting your time on the platform and you're actually seeing results. And the program is awesome. I mean, I have heard so much great feedback from my social mappers. They've gotten a lot of awesome results. I mean, just go back and listen to episode 21 with Julianne, where she talks about how she can now manage both of her businesses' Instagram accounts easily every month because of the social map program. It's so awesome. But when it came to launching the course this time around, I kind of decided it needed a little extra oomph. I mean, I've been really talking a lot about how important it is to lean into your values and beliefs and purpose as a brand in not only your content, but also your offers. And I came to realize that when it comes to social media marketing and marketing in general, let's be honest, I truly believe you will see the most success when you can make it personal, when you can lean into your authentic self, embrace and share your stories with your audience to drive those deeper connections and really compel your audience to take those actions and want to support you. So I decided to do a little revamp of the social map, and I am just squirming in my seat over here, friend. Can you tell? Because it is awesome. I've taken it from a 4-week program to a 6-week program and just beefed it up. Module 1 has to do with creating a social media strategy based on your brand's authentic self, your values, your beliefs, your mission, your purpose, and figuring out who your brand is and how you should show up on social media so that you can actually make a bigger impact in the world. And that's just module 1, my friends. Module 2 is all about what we are going to be touching on today in today's episode when I share my top content creation tip later. But it has everything to do with crafting awesome content, crafting content that will actually drive those conversions for the long term on social media. And I'll give you a hint, it has everything to do with storytelling. Now, later in the episode, I'll talk about why this is so important and give you some tips for how you can tell better stories. But in the social map module 2, I dive deep into this topic, how to tell great stories so that you're reaching your audience on that emotional level and compelling them to buy from you and not feeling weird about it, right? Like that is what this module is all about, crafting content that actually converts for you and drives connection. Module 3 is kind of what the social map used to be focusing on, which is batch planning your monthly content in the most strategic way. So this is sitting down once a month to really plan out all of your Instagram posts so that all of your content is building off one another and preparing your audience to take the ultimate action that you want them to take. Then module 4 is all about growing your genuine following and nurturing relationships with those people who buy from you so that they will continue to buy from you and recommend you to all of those awesome people that are just like them. Then there's module 5, my friends. And this one I am actually most excited about because this is all about taking your selling to the next level. So you can sell confidently, enthusiastically, and actually have fun with it. So in module 5, we cover all of the best selling strategies that are specifically social media related. So that means challenges, that means giveaways, getting down and dirty in the DMs with people. And then I also touch on influencer partnerships, which is super, super fun. It's Influencer Marketing 101. And if you've been looking to maybe dabble in influencer partnerships, this could really help you out. So that is our social map course, and the doors are open now, my friends. So if you are interested in learning more about the Social Map course, head to feelgoodsocial.com/social map. That's where you'll find all the dirty, nerdy deets, and you can learn more about our bonuses. Now, you didn't think I would just leave it at the course modules, right? No, I had to beef up the bonuses as well. This time around, our bonuses include things such as an IG Stories mini course, because IG stories are a little different, let's be honest, but they can really make a difference in your content. There's a confidence boosting boot camp, because I know how scary it can be to put yourself out there on social media and actually hit that post button. Then there's actually an IG Live checklist, because IG Live is one of the best things that you can do for your brand on Instagram. But I know how scary live video can be. And I also know how many things can go wrong. And so this checklist will help you make sure that things go as smoothly as possible whenever you are going IG Live for your brand. Then there is even a DM swipe book. So this is where you can pretty much copy and paste totally not awkward DM conversations if you're looking to really build connection and relationships with those customers in your DMs. And then finally, if that's not enough, there is a fast action bonus that expires next Friday, September 4th. And this is a free ticket to our live workshop, Planning Your Holiday Campaigns. Now, this is a live workshop that I'm going to be hosting in mid-October, and it's basically going to be 2 hours of planning your holidays out from start to finish, so that you can have a season of less stress and more success. That's my tagline for it. 'Tis the season for less stress and more success. We do not want to be running around like a chicken with our heads cut off this holiday season. I do not want that for you. And this workshop is going to help you make that happen. And you can have a ticket for free if you sign up for our social map course before next Friday. Oh, it is just going to be such an amazing time. And I would absolutely love to have you in our program. So if you're interested in learning more and signing up, just head to feelgoodsocial.com/social map. That is where you can find everything. Also, don't be afraid to reach out to me on Instagram if you have any questions. I know it can be scary to invest in your business. I have done a lot of investing in myself and my business this year, and I do know it's kind of scary to pull the trigger if you don't know the program is perfect for you. So if you do have any questions, reach out to me at Feel Good Social on Instagram. I would love to chat with you in the totally not awkward DMs, my friends. All right, let's get into this episode. Today, I am sharing my number one tip to improve your content and boost your conversions. And I already kind of hinted at it, but I'm going to go ahead and roll the intro because I just want to keep this suspense going, my friend. So I will share my number one tip for improving your content and increasing your conversions after we roll the intro. Hey friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. All right, my friends, are you ready for my number one tip to help you improve your content and boost your conversions on Instagram? It's tell more stories. Okay, storytelling on social media is the number one way you can truly not only improve your content on the platform, but also help to take your audience from the platform to your website and buy from you. And you may have heard other marketers talking about storytelling. I mean, it has been a very popular topic lately in the past few years, and that's because it works. But this is not really a new idea. I mean, storytelling has been a part of our culture since the beginning, since the caveman days. People have been telling each other stories, passing stories down through the generations because stories make such an impact on us as humans. It is so important to realize how much we are impacted by stories and embrace it, especially on social media. Now, let's get into a little bit more of why this is so helpful on social itself. Firstly, stories can help you to make your content more interesting, more intriguing, right? Stories can actually help you to not only capture your audience's attention in the very overcrowded space, content filled space that is Instagram, but it also helps you to hold your audience's attention. Only 10% of your followers actually see your posts in their feed. And then even less than that actually pay attention to it and actually get reeled into what you are saying. If you tell an interesting story, it is much easier to capture someone's attention and hold it than if you were just sharing some boring fact, figure, or just a general caption. Now that leads me into my next point, which is stories are a really great way to differentiate yourself on Instagram. The more stories you share, the more people will think of you as different than the other Jane Schmain business over there that's pretty much exactly like yours, right? You will stick out in people's minds more so when you can share things in story form. They'll also remember your stories more so. Stories are 22 times more likely to be remembered than a fact or a figure. And I did have to look up that fact before I started this podcast because I couldn't remember it. No, I'm just kidding. I've said that fact enough times at this point in my life to remember that stories are 22 times more likely to be remembered than a fact or a figure. However, what are you going to remember at the end of this podcast? Are you going to remember my point that stories have been a part of our culture since ancient Mesopotamia and passed down through generations? And that's why the tradition has held. Or are you going to remember my 10% of your followers will actually see your posts, or 22 times more likely our story to be remembered than facts and figures? You'll probably remember the Mesopotamia thing, right? So the more you can tell stories in your content, the more memorable your content will be coming out of this platform where people are just being bombarded with content every day. It's really hard to not only capture people's attention, hold on to their attention, but also stand out from the crowd and be remembered. And telling stories will help you do that. Now, stories will also make your content much more relatable, make your brand more relatable. When we can tell stories, people will feel connected to us on that deeper level. People will start to know, like, and trust us as humans because they relate to our experiences, they relate to our emotions versus feeling connected to us in kind of that disconnected business way. The more you can tell stories, the more your audience will feel like they know you, like you, and can trust you. And that is a very important thing to develop on Instagram. And on top of that, stories can help us to prove our points. Like I said, stories have been a part of our culture forever. And a lot of the stories that we are all passing down and telling through the generations have a point, right? This is where fables come from. All of the books of the Bible are storytelling to prove a bigger point. And so when you can get your point across to your audience through a story, it will make it more understandable for them than just once again telling them a fact or a figure like this is the way you need to do it and not saying why. If I can tell you a story about why stories are so important, my point will be made more. For example, when I was working in the restaurant industry, I worked at this wine bar and we had to memorize all of our wines, right? And there was like a whole freaking wall of all of these different wines from all these different regions with all these different grape varieties. And we had to kind of know our shit because we had to sell them, right? And luckily, our owner, Ellie, was amazing. And when she was doing her wine trainings and teaching us about the wines, she tended to choose wines that not only taste good, that come from a great, creator, vineyard, but she also chose wines that had a story behind them. she chose, this wine that they created on a boat, and then it would go around the world in barrels on a boat before it was sold. Like, that's awesome. We had this wine about like all of the different labels had different birds on them, and a certain part of the proceeds of that bottle would go to a foundation for those birds. Like, that's interesting. She would choose these wines that had a story behind them. And not only did it make it easier for me to remember the wines, firstly, but it also made it easier for me to sell these wines because I could say the story and people felt compelled to buy these wines based on the story versus, oh, it's a Merlot, Chardonnay grape. You guys, I still don't know much about wine. I'm so bad with wine, but I can remember the stories. I can sell the stories, so I can sell the bottles, right? That's what I learned in all of that, which brings me to my final point of why stories are so important for your social media content. And that's because it connects to people on an emotional level. And our emotions are where we make decisions to take action and buy. How many times have you bought a product that you did not need at all? Logically, it didn't make sense to buy something. I did not need that sweater that I bought the other day, but it was reaching me on an emotional level because it was reminding me of when I was younger in Montana and we would go on Christmas tree hunts. And I was like, oh, shoot, I need that sweater. I can see I was creating a story in my mind of this winter, throwing on my sweater, going out into the woods with Brett and getting a Christmas tree. And that's not going to happen, my friends. Like, we didn't even have a Christmas tree last year. I'll be honest. But I made up this story in my mind about the sweater, and I bought it based on the story that I made up because it connected to me on that emotional level. And I felt compelled to buy it, even though it didn't make sense. It's also 90 degrees outside right now. Like, let's be honest. I did not need to buy that sweater the other day, but guess what? I did because of the emotional connection I felt to it and because of this story that I made up in my head about the sweater. When we can tell stories on Instagram in a purposeful way in our captions, we will do much more to compel our audience to actually take the action we want to take. And that can ultimately be to buy from us, right? Whenever someone hears a story and they're connected on that emotional level and they feel drawn to it, it actually fires neurons in the part of our brain that makes purchase decisions. People feel compelled to buy based on stories. And so that is why it is so freaking important to tell stories in your captions. So now that I've convinced you that you need to tell more stories on social media, I would love to share just a few tips to help you do this. Now, once again, my friends, this is a topic I could talk your ear off about all day, which I am not going to do to you because we could go deep. We could dive so deep into this topic. So instead, I'm going to share my top 3 tips to start telling more stories on social. And just a little mid plug, shameless plug. If this is a topic that you want to dive deeper into, if you truly want to hone in on how you can easily and effectively share personal stories to drive your audience to actually buy from you, then that is something that I cover in detail in our social map course. Module 2 is about crafting all sorts of content for Instagram that will actually convert. But like I said, a lot of that has to do with storytelling. So if this is a topic that you want to dive deeper into, definitely head to feelgoodsocial.com/social map. The doors are open right now. They will be closing in a couple of weeks. But if you sign up before Friday, you will get that holiday planning bonus live workshop, which is so awesome. So if this is something you want to learn more about, feelgoodsocial.com/social map, my friends. Okay. Let's get into my 3 top tips for how to start sharing more stories on social media. Now, I do teach this to my social map students. The first thing we really need to do is kind of brainstorm what stories do we have in our life that are worth sharing. A little disclaimer here. You may be thinking like, I don't have any stories that are worth sharing. Like, Kinsey, my life is boring. I don't have anything to share that my audience would want to hear. That's just simply not true, my friends. Honestly, some of the best stories we can share for our business are the boring ones. Those are the ones that are the most relatable to people. Those are the ones that will make your audience feel the most connected to you. Those boring everyday moments that make you pause and think, hey, that is interesting. There is something interesting from this situation. I learned something in this situation. I felt something in this moment. Those are the moments that I'm really talking about brainstorming right now. So what I want you to do is sit down with just a pen and paper or a Google Doc and just start listing out moments in your life that really are, kind of standing out, that are memorable for some reason. Now, once again, it can be a little moment. It does not have to be this big giant moment, but if you remember it, then it is probably worth it. Now, if you're having trouble brainstorming these, I would start with today because it's the most fresh on your mind, right? Then I would kind of open it up to a weekly view, right? Like what has happened this week that has really just stuck out in my mind, that was funny, that really evoked a certain emotion in me. And that doesn't have to be something good. It can be frustration. It can be just anything that triggered an emotion in you. Then I want you to open it up, to a year. Just keep getting bigger and broader with your brain dump, just moments that stick out in your mind. And as you are getting farther and farther back in your own history, it might be a good idea to actually look through your old photographs. And there are two reasons that this is super, super awesome. Number one is that photos can actually help to definitely trigger those memories, right? So that you don't have to have a photographic brain and be remembering all of the tiny moments in your life that are worth sharing. But also, if you actually can find photos that help you to trigger stories that you might want to share with your audience, those are photos that you can pair with a caption on Instagram. Like, how amazing is that? So just take out a Google Doc, brain dump a bunch of different stories that maybe stick out in your mind or that you like to share or that would trigger an emotion in you, or moments that were memorable enough to take a photo of. Like that's another reason that's awesome to look through old photographs, is because there's a reason you were taking a photo. So brain dump a bunch of moments. Then I want you to go back through and look at all of these different photos, different moments, different stories that you wrote down, and think about these three things. What was I feeling in this moment? Did I learn anything from this moment? Were there any transformations happening in this moment? Go down your list, think about the emotion you were feeling, think about any lessons that you learned, and thinking about any transformations that were made in those stories. And that is going to help you as you create content from these stories, okay? That is kind of my first step to telling more stories on social media. I call it a story bank. I teach this in my social map, where we want to create this kind of bank of inspiration for our captions, of stories specifically to draw from, because it will really help us create content more consistently, more intentionally, and more easily. So that we're not just sitting there kind of grasping for instant inspiration all the time, right? Now, after you create this story bank, we actually have to use these stories to create content. And I can get so deep into how we need to do this. But the one thing that I really want you to think about as you are taking these stories from your story bank and applying them to your captions so that you can create content that actually converts on Instagram is, how can I relate this story to my ideal audience? Throughout this whole episode, I have been telling you how important it is to share your personal stories with your audience. But your stories are not about you when you are sharing them for your brand. We need to make your stories relate to your ideal audience, or no one's going to pay attention. So I want you to think about, how can I relate this to my ideal audience? Why should they want to pay attention? And how can I draw them into my story and make them feel a part of my story so that they feel more connected to it? There are so many awesome ways to do this, my friends, but My easiest tip for doing this is honestly to focus on the universal part of your story. I could share so many specific experiences, and I have, that have happened in my life that probably have not happened to you, right? Being a ski instructor in high school, just dropping out of college and moving to Colorado on a whim, moving into a house on Craigslist that I had no idea who my roommates were, all those things. Those are very specific moments in my life that you could possibly relate to. Maybe you've had similar experiences, but they're pretty specific to me at this point, right? Probably not a lot of you have really experienced that specific thing. So how can I tell a story that makes it more universal and relate to you on that universal level? Well, I can tell you this, specific experiences are not as relatable as our emotions. So maybe not a lot of you have experienced the whole move from Montana to Indiana. Maybe not a lot of you have dropped out of college and moved into a house on Craigslist. Maybe not a lot of you have been a ski instructor in high school, but you have felt kind of ripped out of a situation that you didn't want to leave. You have felt confused in your life, scared in your life, and just compelled to do something joyful. You have felt like you were thrown into a new situation that you had no idea what the heck you were doing, but you were going to try hard for it anyway. We have all felt frustrated. We've all felt angry. We've all felt joyful. We've all felt these emotions that everyone feels in our life from multiple situations. So my favorite piece of advice when it comes to telling stories in your social media content is to draw your reader in, make your story more relatable by realizing what is the emotion in this story and asking your audience if they have ever felt the same way. That is the easiest way to draw people into a story. Make them relate to your experience, even if they have not experienced the exact same thing. These universal emotions are the way to do it, my friend. So that is why, as you were brain dumping, I wanted you to think about the emotions you were feeling in the story. Okay. That is one of the best ways that you can really tell stories in a relatable way that are going to connect with people on that emotional level and compel them to take that action. So that is my top tip when it comes to how to start sharing stories on Instagram for your brand. Now, like I said, my friends, there is so much more to this. So I would love to encourage you, if you have enjoyed learning from me, if you feel like you've gotten value, if you really want to take control of your social media marketing, show up authentically, build a genuine following of those people who connect with you and want to support you, and then sell with confidence on social. Please, my friends, check out our online course, The Social Map. It is going to be so awesome. I just squirmed in my seat again because I'm just so excited. This course is everything that I believe about social media marketing, that I have learned in my past few years of experience, trial and error with social media marketing. This is everything. This course will make the difference for your social media strategy, for the way you show up online, for how you grow your following, for the success of your business. This course is it, my friend. So please check us out, feelgoodsocial.com/social map. That is where you can find all of the details of the course. If you want to dive deeper into storytelling, if you want to dive deeper into how to sell with confidence on social media, this is the course for you. feelgoodsocial.com/social map. Check it out. Hit me up on Instagram if you have any questions, because I would love to see you in there. I would love to support you in this journey. All right, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in every week. You know how much I love showing up for you guys. You know how much I love just being here to support you. And you know how much I appreciate you. I have absolutely loved chatting with all of you on the gram, having those conversations, learning what you need help with, and just, showing up in the feel good social way. So thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to check out the course, feelgoodsocial.com/social map. And I will catch you next Thursday. Have a great week. Thank Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.